Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts Round 4, The New Order, Last Days of Europe, as the US of A. Now, last video, we passed a very powerful civil rights legislation bill, kind of very narrowly, but we managed to get it through. And because of that, we are ready, really, to move on. Namely, perhaps, with the, very brutal South African War. Senators bring not only snow melts and browning leaves, but also their own preference over when the sun rises and sets, whereas winter prefers to grace her rolling white panoramas with an extra hour of warm sunset light. Summer instead bids the stars wake an hour early, as if to greet these sleeping people under its watchful gaze. Romans, Englishmen, Frenchmen, civilizations which have relied on the sun's firmamental flight to keep track of time were left with no choice but to adjust their hours to four different maidens' tastes. Today, the U.S. shall join their lengthy haired ranks as President Robert F. Kennedy signs the Uniform Time Act of 1966. Its pages agree that from 0200 hours of April last Sunday to 0200 hours of October's last Sunday, all clocks across America's 5 time zones will be moved forward by exactly 1 hour. Proponents have argued for a multitude of benefits, saving daylight. In such a manner will bring, including a notable reduction in the home electricity bills. Should they somehow wish, states may choose to opt out of the latest and most unusual amendment to the nation's timekeeping standards, provided their exemption applies statewide. Remember, kids, spring forward, fall back. Oh god, now I hate Robert Kennedy. What are you gonna do, I guess? I don't know. Maybe more base bleed. We're starting to actually push through, finally, which is good. Operational. There we go. Free Indonesia. The military's been purged. Let's go ahead and do maximum pressure. Indonesia's freedom is non-negotiable. There will be no detente, no olive branches, no trees. Either we seize the day and cut off Japan's main source of oil now, or we never will. Time to turn up the heat in Tokyo. We will hit them with a diplomatic onslaught. They will be made to know in no uncertain terms that we are in this to win this. Hopefully they'll back down. Oh. We're starting to make progress, thankfully. They gotta give eventually. We're attacking over a river. It's gonna be hell. Oh, we did it. Fuck! Wait. Okay, we got it back. Go, 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 quick, quick, quick. And there we go. Beautiful. Anger among the National Progressive Party has come to a head this week with the official interview. What? Maybe we should have... What? Maximum... That's not the event. Okay, we got that figured out. Let's get working on... Okay, what do we want to do? We have the road towards justice. So we can do the fight against poverty, which will go ahead and increase our poverty rate social development. Will be viewed as a more liberal justice, and will gain... The Republican Democrats will look a little bit better in a couple core states, which is going to be good for us, I think. I think we'll go ahead and look at the root of the issue. Actually, we'll hold off on doing that. We'll finish up the war. Let's do it with charity for all. America is by far the wealthiest, most prosperous, and free nation on the planet, while Germany continues to flounder desperately, trying to preserve its empire of evil, and Japan perpetually stamps a boot down upon its oppressed people, who continue to stand tall as a beacon of liberty and prosperity, and yet there are still pockets of people within our nation without the means to live. They struggle to put food on the table. They struggle to find legal counsel when they have been wronged. They lived in the most squalid and dire conditions imaginable. In allowing this to happen to our people, how can we call ourselves any better than the fascists? Robert Kennedy intends to rectify the situation with immediate effect, ranging with a range of measures aimed at granting aid and welfare to our most vulnerable. There we go. Well, we should get pushing. Keep working on it while we can. The Beach Boys have done it again, releasing their 11th album, Pet Sounds, to both critical and public acclaim. However, fans have noticed something unusual about it. It's a complete break from the regular surf rock style. Electric guitars have now been replaced by string sections. Lyrics about the sun and sand now talk about love and heartbreak. And the more interesting sounds, including Thurman's barking dogs, prepared pianos, and freight train whistles. However, the singers are still the Beach Boys as always, and their vocal arrangements have become more elaborate and layered. Critics are already making a comparison to Phil Spector, a music producer whose style is immensely pop influential on the Beach Boys frontrunner Brian Wilson. Although critics are split as to whether the album was a failed experiment or a bold new step for music, many of the fans have taken to it eagerly nonetheless. With the sobering events of the past several years, it's little surprise if the listeners desire more emotional and conflicted type of pop music. I think this is great. There we go. Keep pushing forward, boys. Oh! We have done it. Oh my lord, we have done it. They're going after the Volgastadt. Polls are updated. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I mean, I could've... safe mostly, RD victory. I think we'll focus on the Great Plains for now. Try to flip Minnesota. Now this is just going beautifully. Tragic day. The NPP runs a good campaign. Where do they run their campaign at? West Coast. Fuck, that's not where they need to do a good campaign at. Flamethrowers. I'll get working here, here, and here. God only knows what I'd be without. Okay, so we're in a bit of a different... Still in a bit of a stalemate now, but we made up more ground, which I think is very important. Scout helicopter companies. Improved aerial refueling. Here's what we're going to do. Campaign the Great Plains. Beautiful. Hollywood took on the political wildfire of a Nixon presidency this past weekend as a critically acclaimed film, All the President's Men, stormed theaters across the U.S. Critics from the Chicago Sun-Times have regarded the movie as being a brilliant showcasing of a depth of investigative journalism as paranoia, self-doubt, and harassment dominate the cases of heroes of the Washington Post. The movie soared to reach a cemented number one spot as a box office as Americans rushed to see the political thriller. Director Alan J. Pakula, why did I say Joshua, the fuck, provides the American audience a journey across the spheres of journalism, writing, and politics as the film looks into the journeys of renowned reporting duo Katharine Graham and David Halberstam as they take on the haunting shadows with which peer over their every move. Together, the duo follows one step after another into the journey to unveil a secretive and dangerous conspiracy involving the White House administration, scaling all the way up to the former President Nixon himself, who just 2 years ago resigned from his office as President of the U.S. Graham and Halberstam served as writing leads behind the movie itself, with Graham stating that David and I wanted to deliver a trek through the perils that came with the Nixon scandal, as we had experienced it. Terrifying, backbreaking, and, well, exhilarating. As every time we felt our hearts racing, we wanted the audience to feel that rush just the same. That said, key figures from the RD party have come forward in criticism of the movie, with the RD stating that it puts a hole through our work in trying to help the US. Meanwhile, a spokesperson from the NPP has stated that their appreciation with Graham, Halberstam, and Pakula's work. Nevertheless, despite the political experts' criticism, the American audience has driven in scores of theaters across the country to enjoy the film of a decade, as some has called it, a critical success, despite our failures. Okay, I think now it's time to relax. Get some more supply. Lene. Uh-oh, that's a hardliner, right? Yeah, that's not good. Let's go ahead and tour the nation. Robert Kennedy is not content to be seen as yet another career politician sitting in an ivory tower. He needs the people to know that he truly cares for them and wants to understand the issues that they really face. To this end, the president has planned to embark on a grand tour across the whole of the United States, where he will visit numerous communities and people from all walks of life. He uses the opportunity to speak directly to the American people and get a view from the ground of the problems affecting their everyday life. This should hopefully foster a better relationship between the office of president and the people that the office dedicates itself to serving. Well, there we go. The opposition's doing a campaign on the West Coast again. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, how are we doing now in the war? A lot better. Indonesia's looking a hell of a lot. Free Indonesia's looking a hell of a lot better. How's the war support looking, though? Middling. NPP support is high. Domestic support is middling. Free military factories. Let's go. Anti-air. A good RD campaign. That's good. And then we'll campaign the West Coast, because that's what we got to do right now. Campaign the West Coast. Nope, not yet. I wonder if we can fall back a little bit. The NPP runs a miserable campaign. Wunderbar. Oh. We'll hold off. Let them move on ahead. Polls are updated. Campaigning on the West Coast. Still a toss-up in the plains. Michigan tilts towards us. We might want to go to the East Coast after this. Oh. Oh! How do you like them apples, boys? The journey of 1,000 miles. Robert Kennedy sat in the Oval Office, Hubert Humphrey and James Rowley, Secret Service Director, across from him. So, everything all set? Yes, Mr. President, proud Rowley. All your bags and necessary items are aboard Air Force One, and everything is secured for a smooth running of things while you're on the campaign. Excellent, said Robert Kennedy, standing up from the resolute desk. Now it's his decision where to start. Wait, said Humphrey. I thought we agreed upon Boston for our first destination, to shore up our support and stronghold of ours. What's changed? Kennedy scratched his chin. Well, you see, I'm not so sure that's the best course of action right now. I think we need to focus more on our party unity by traveling more conservative strongholds. Spores in Boston aren't going anywhere. I was thinking Maine. Humphrey sighed. It's called Bobby, but I think everything's set up for Boston. You're the boss, but I still think it would be the best choice. Kennedy looked out the window of the White House lawn. It was a terrifically beautiful day. One good for flying, he supposed. He'd been set on Maine, but now he wasn't so sure. Let's go to Boston. Go to Boston. We'll go ahead and do... Let's do fighting tyranny since 1776. When our great nation declared its independence, it was a statement against the tyranny of foreign masters who trampled the rights of the little man. When our noble forebears conceived and embraced the Monroe Doctrine, is an assertion of our might, our purpose, and our goal in protecting the whole hemisphere from the old world domination. In the 1940s, we failed. As our vilest tyranny imaginable descended upon Eurasia, our complacent elitist leadership failed to prepare us for the coming storm, and then cowardly tried to stay out of the way of the wars until they arrived at our doorstep. Thousands upon thousands of young American men bleeding out in the fields of England for a war that was already lost. Our naval might shattered Pearl Harbor due to an administration that could not see the warnings. Our garrisons and Marines murdered, captured, and brutalized in squalid conditions by the Japanese. The Falcon Spears of Japanese and Germans dropped their doomsday weapons on Oahu. America suffered terribly, but our suffering is but a fraction of that of the untold millions under fascist tyranny. Europe may be beyond salvation, but in Asia we mayhaps still have a chance to strike back like the avenging angels. Let's explore ways to break up the iron grip of a despotic Japanese spear. And meanwhile, let's take a look at some spy stuff and target some more Democrats. Operation commenced. Let's go ahead and do Free Indonesia. Actually, let's do some of our decisions. Let's send some weaponry to them. The Boston speech. Boston was a wonderful city for the president to visit. It was greeted by large cheering crowds, cramped along the narrow colonial-era streets as his motorcade paraded around the Freedom Trail. Finally standing before thousands of Boston Commons, you could tell this place loved him. Waving flags and carrying signs, they cheered for him when he stopped on stage, only quieting to hear him speak. Bostonians! How great it is to return to the city of my birth. You know, I remember growing up on the outskirts of the city, in Brookline, all the terrible signs I used to have. Outside businesses, stores, everything. Do you remember what they said, people of Boston? No colors allowed, or whites only. Traveling down the Freedom Trail today, I saw no such signs. Did you? I doubt it, because the city of Boston is free, welcoming, and undyingly progressive. I want to remind you, this is what the progressive America stand for. This is what we fight for. And more than that, this is what we achieve. Desegregation across America. That's why we want that. That's what we want, and that's what we'll get. Fight the good fight, Boston. Stay progressive. With that, the president stood off the podium to let the mayor of the city give his slower, more somber speech. After a few hours of pleasantries and intermixed comments by Kennedy, Humphrey, and the mayor, it was time to head back. Stepping off the platform, Vice President Humphrey turned to Kennedy. Not bad, Bobby. Where to next? I don't think there's an election. Is there an election going on in Michigan? There is. And it's better to go, I think, to Chicago. Because that's probably flipping back anyway. Where are they campaigning now? The Upper South. If they want to waste time in the Upper South, go for it. If we want to waste time in the Upper South, I guess, go for it. They're still technically them. I gotta remind myself that. John Glenn. Keep pushing over. At a glance, Chicago looked like just about any other large city in America, but to President Kennedy represented much more. The progressives had a strong hold over the urban population and had to be ensured they remained that way. The motorcade had taken a scenic route towards the whole south side, from the airport through Chinatown, and then south to the front of the Museum of Science and Industry, where Kennedy now stood before thousands of people. People of Chicago! I think it's appropriate that I now stand in front of the Museum of Industry and Science while giving a speech in front of the most industrious cities of this great nation. Time and time again, this great city and its residents have proven themselves to be a beacon of enterprising, welcoming, hard-working Americans. Chicago, in short, is the embodiment of the American dream. Growing up in New England, from time to time you would hear the term Yankee ingenuity get thrown around. It basically refers to the American indomitable spirit of hard work and get-stuff-done determinism that has allowed us to become a great and prosperous nation, as great as prosperous as we currently are. Standing here in Chicago, all I can see is Yankee ingenuity. However, there's a poison to all that hard work. Some would see workers given nothing if it means that their own pockets might get a little deeper. Workers of all kind deserve rights. They deserve a right to unionize. They deserve the right to demand better wages. Progressive have always fought for such things, and will continue to fight until the blight of a blue-collar man is rectified. Kenny stepped back from the podium and stood next to Hubert Humphrey, the crowd going up in applause behind him. Well, that's Chicago taken care of, Humphrey said. Anything else before we hit the road again? I think I hit all the bases. I was thinking we'd go to Yellowstone. And now we're heading on to Sumatra. Yellowstone was an interesting and unusual place to hold a speech. Initially, Bobby Kennedy had been skeptical of traveling to a remote, albeit famous national park for one of his speeches across America. Now, with reporters from a dozen major news networks standing before him, notepads in hand, he knew he'd been wrong. This would not be a speech for Wyoming, nor Montana, or Ohio, or Idaho, or any other state. This would be a patriotic rallying cry to all Americans, reminding us where we all come from and where we all call home. Today I find myself not only speaking to common people of the United States, but rather the messengers to whom they listen. It's not matter. I stand here in one of the most peaceful, beautiful places our great nation has to offer. To say that, no matter how divided we may seem, we are still an individual nation, connected through soulful bonds that may never be torn apart. Every year, millions of people visit this place. As such, it remains and forever shall be one of the great bonds that tie our union together. We are a nation of one people, one heritage. Regardless of race or creed or color, we are not simply Americans. We are America itself. Standing in such a place as this, we may be reminded of the words of our forebearer, John Winthrop, to his shipmates aboard the Arabella, as they were traveling to the New World for a new life. You must remember, he said, that we shall be as a shining city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us. Today, as always, the eyes of all people remain upon us, anxiously studying the American experiment, be it through our politics, or our culture, or our faith. In all levels of government, we must be constructed of men and women of resolute freedom, aware of a trust placed in them by God and the freedom-loving people of the world. Our endeavors, as with the men of the Arabella's endeavors, will not be judged upon the basis of the color of our skin, nor by the nature of our God, nor the ideology to which we owe our allegiance. Rather, we will judge by the world we build for future generations, be it terrible or righteous. An hour or so later, the reporters had asked for questions, and the few tourists shaken in the president's hand. Kennedy returned to the Lincoln Continental he'd been driving to Yellowstone in. He turned to Humphrey, who sat beside him. That took a bit longer than expected. I believe we're going to Washington next, specifically. Diverse place, said Humphrey. You've been winging most of these speeches so far. What are you going to talk about? You know, labor unions could use some support. Actually, this campaign is primarily about civil rights. Why stop it now? We're moving on to Sumatra. The restaurants aren't to fill at a fancier ore than the name would suggest. Of course, half a place had been reserved ahead of time for the president and his entourage of Secret Service and politicians. Robert Kennedy sat himself in a cozy little corner with Hubert Humphrey, eating a steak after a long day of pleasantries and speeches. Well, all things considered, this is Robert Kennedy cutting a piece of filet mignon. I say that went pretty well. Not sure how poorly it could have gone in the first place, considering how well we pull here, but every single talking point hit the nail on the head. The people out here loved every minute of a speech. Sure, replied Humphrey. I think what we've all said out here should help us a little bit here in Washington, at least prevent us from losing the state as a whole. So, what's next after we finishing this nice little dinner? I've got the rest of West Coast to cover. I was thinking Oregon. Wait, Oregon. I misread it. Oregon for California. Shit. I don't know if this actually does anything in the way HoI. Let's get some HoIs and some anti-air. Kennedy had come to Portland after quite a fashion of speeches across America. It was no surprise that a large crowd of expectant faces waited him at Mount Tabor Park. The people lived right at the doorstep of the Japanese ports of the Pacific Ocean and were obviously eagerly anticipating some anti-Japanese rhetoric. Bobby Kennedy shuffled his papers on the podium and began to speak. "People of Portland! I see among you many expectant faces. Of course, the West Coast has faced the greatest and most troubling humiliation and anger from the Japanese treaty ports brought upon by the now void Akagi Accords. Many of your industrial sectors are also under duress, and with such difficult times upon us, it's no wonder that the main American politicians have failed in leadership. I can promise you that with the NPP at your side, the city of Portland, the state of Oregon, and the entirety of the West Coast will be brought out of these difficult times unsullied by pain or scarred by poverty." Kenny continued with and without his speech notes, simply giving a run-of-the-mill speech to please his overawed masses. These past few weeks must have been hell on his riders, and most recent ones really needed a little spicing up. And in case people seem to loved it, as they always had out here. After another hour or so of on-off speaking in Mount Tabor, Bobby once again hopped back in Lincoln Continental of the President's motorcade, with Humphrey alongside him. "Well, we can go along the West Coast without hitting California, could we?" "No, we couldn't, Hugh," replied Kennedy. "We've got 2 drafts for a speech in San Francisco. I think we'll do the one focused on... we'll do labor unions." Campaigning in the the West Coast. When he was standing up on stage and just outright called the Japanese ports a criminal, illegal occupation of American soil, I just thought about the world stood still for a moment. Bobby Kennedy smiled at his vice president, Hubert Humphrey, from across the dinner table. "Still can't believe any politician would say something like that, huh? I'm hardly the first to spit on the Akagi Accords. Well, just so happens, few and far between is all. It just happens few and far between is all. Saying that you got a lot of support anyhow. I'm not sure I've ever seen a crowd erupt like that. They loved you, Bobby." Kenny took another slice of a steak, eating while talking. "Yeah, well, I guess that means we'll adventure here is a success. Next, I was thinking we head to Alabama. Operational success. Beautiful. Taking Palembang. Bobby Kennedy lay reclined in his bed in what must have been the most expensive and lavish hotel room he'd ever seen. It had everything. A full bedroom, bigger than some inner-city apartments, a king-size feather bed, radio, mini-fridge, even a TV. So Bobby chose the news as a background noise while he read about the latest developments in Europe. Regardless, it was nice. After a long day of giving fiery speeches in Montgomery, Alabama, it was nice to relax for a few minutes. It was quite the miracle that he had the television turned up all the way as he heard his name said. Intrigued, Bobby increased the volume. Governor Wallace claimed that President Robert Kennedy came to Alabama this week only to slander him in the entire state of Alabama. Wallace said that he served the state of Alabama faithfully for many years and not let a Yankee upstart with no political experience tell him his constituents how to live or run themselves. He also said that Kennedy's trying to break the unity of the NPP in the state of Alabama. Bobby turned off the TV as his lips curled into a frown. He expected and hoped for an outcome like this. He dropped the opportunity to kick Wallace down a couple of notches. If Wallace wanted to play ball, he'd soon learn a simple truth. He's now a catcher in a house of glass. Well, our targeting of Republicans is working okay. Fuck. God damn it. Well, today could have gone a lot better. Bobby Kennedy eyed him with some annoyance. When he walked out of his hotel doors, I just never expected Wallace to be standing there with them. What, he talked over and humiliate you? Bobby nodded. He looked over the city of Knoxville, Tennessee, where they'd stopped for the night. The wind on the hotel balcony they stood on was strong but almost balmy. It would have been perfect had it not been for Day's events. I just couldn't get a word in edgewise. Every time I opened my mouth, he would scream over me. Made me look like a goddamn fool. I've already gotten calls from free party members, all from different wings. They've asked me what the hell happened. I know, said Humphrey. It's a rough business, especially when dealing with an animal like Wallace. Bobby sighed, watching the distant flashlights of the airplane as it suddenly moved across the night sky. It disappeared over only a moment. "Hugh," said Bobby, "I've had enough. Let's go home." Yeah, it's probably time to go. Let's take a glance at the war. We're pretty single-handedly changing the whole course of this conflict. Move over here. Yep. Let's do these other guys up here. Let's move up there. Clara Duffley tried to make her shivering less obvious by hugging her arms to her chest, her husband wisely doing the same beside her. Darn it, she thought. Why couldn't they turn the heat on at Mass? As if that wasn't bad enough, Father Kendrick's sermon today was on the virtue of constancy. Hardly the most thrilling stuff. As the father's words washed over like gentle rolling waves, she found herself drifting away in the vague consideration of the current political landscape. All he seemed to talk about on the radio were President Kennedy's new reforms, each more radical than the last. Being a warrior, significantly. Like everyone else she known, she'd gone all in on Kennedy back in '64. It's not like she hadn't wanted a liberal president, but a lot of his recent policies seemed to Clara to be a bit left. Extremism, even. Clenching her jaw to stop her teeth, shattering as Father Kendricks droned on, Clara wondered how many others in the congregation felt the same way. They weren't fond of segregation or authoritarianism, but a lot of President Kennedy's recent policies seemed haunted by the specter of the thing most abhorred by the all-American suburbanite, socialism. Mulling it over, Clara decided that it had been a good run, but having a Catholic in White House might not be worth Kennedy's apparent turn towards radical. What they needed was a liberal, moderate president. Emphasis on moderate. Signing through her nose, she wondered if the next time she was at the ballot booth, she'd have to commit the ultimate Irish Catholic sin and vote Republican. The wise man knows not to mess with Tammany Hall. Well, nonetheless, we push on. Fighting tyranny since 1776. Washington, no matter your political leanings, all recent conversations in the Capitol invariably turns to the same subject. President Robert Kennedy's announcement that the United States would seek to revise the post-war modulus vivendi with the Empire of Japan. The policy's pronouncement, though vague, has been the central policy plank of an NPP since its formation. While the administration has remained tight-lipped on concrete initiatives, this has only encouraged the imagination of the political class in Washington. Members of the NPP congressional delegation, slower speed. Where was I? Could be heard throughout the week speculating on America's newfound foreign policy, ranging from doubling the military and financial aid to the OFN and actively destabilizing co-prosperity via its many restive insurgencies, while stressing the ultimate decision rests with the president. Senior NPP figures emphasize that all options remain on the table. Members of the RDs have expressed skepticism towards the president's confrontational foreign policy, viewing the endeavor as naive adventurism. A senior RD political aide, who asked not to remain, panned the NPP policy as dangerously reckless, with little consideration for de-escalation. It's all fun and games, they remarked, until the nukes fly. At least the NPP fights for America. How about that? Well, we're doing good here. Taking some valuable territory back. Let's go ahead and do domestic preparedness. Yeah. When the NPP was elected, the American people spoke down with one thunderous voice, tearing down the entrenched elites, embracing a righteous campaign to be fought against the Japanese menace wherever it is to be found. At least that's what the party's National Committee chairman claimed at the last convention. In reality, our victory was a lot narrower than we'd like, and a lot of our voters supported us for our progressive domestic agenda rather than the campaign of vengeance many of our party leadership still like to see as a core of our platform. In addition, many former Democrats in the party are openly sympathetic to isolation stances and only pay lip service to Canadian Japan. We now have a difficult choice at promptly reinstating the draft and enacting war preparations measures to ensure our nation is protected against many foreign threats, is ready to act swiftly like a pouncing eagle, or try to gradually build support for those things through a fierce media campaign while optimizing our industry for wartime production. The latter is popular, but slow may leave us unready for major conflict. The former, the opposite. Well, let's do it. The NPP runs an incredible campaign. God fucking damn it. Why is our party doing so fucking good? Jesus! I want them to suck! Okay, where is tilting? Great Plains might be worth doing. New England. We'll campaign in New England. Here we go. Push him down. Get him out of here. We'll do that. And... oh, wait. Hold up. There we go. Another guy gone. And assign divisions. We'll get these guys with old Chris Wallace. These guys are attacking into us. Currently setting themselves up for an encirclement, possibly, potentially. Hold on there, boys. Yeah, you mind holding this for a second? It's your death. Aristocrat and gentlemen. Shit, we're doing better now than we have been. We'll take this chopper up here. Take this chopper down here. And we'll actually go ahead and take this chopper up here too. We are doing good. I'm happy with our progress thus far. That's not. It's a bit too early for that. We'll do that. Polls are updated. Let's see. Leaning. Cross our fingers and hope it works in New England. They're working in the Rockies. And we'll see what happens there. We've taken their original capital back. Beautiful. Can do a fight against poverty again. Makes RDs look a bit better. Works for me. Domestic preparedness. Let's go ahead and feed the beast. War means men. It consumes them with a great greed and hunger for more. It's a sad reality of conflict. It's likely that in any prolonged conflict, we would be forced to instate the draft anyway, if we are to realize the new American dream of freeing the world from tyranny, at least for Japanese tyranny. Conflict is inevitable. All Americans will have to take part in making this dream a reality, and dancing around it only puts our precious liberty and our aspirations further at risk. But draft must be reinstated, and better now while we are still at relative peace, so that the people can get used to it, than struggling when our country is already bleeding and struggling for war. Let's set up task force, Pentagon, and Census Department to determine our drafting capabilities and begin contracting factories to produce kits for some greatly expanded military machines. With some luck, a bit of domestic discontent will now mean a quick and relative painless war in the future as our superior numbers and technology overwhelm our foes with shock and awe. Better protests now than draft riots when the Japanese are shelling the Golden Gate. I suppose they have a point. Let's see. We'll drown our enemies in raw industrial might. Actually, yeah, we'll send you there. They're doing encirclements without my help even. I'm proud of them. Look at them. Go get them, boys. We'll take Cirebone, not to be confused with Cinnabon. Now, why you'd confuse that with Cinnabon, I have no idea, but hey, don't confuse it. Like all organized crime establishments, the anonymous room in Queens had a smell of cash and cigarettes, too many secrets whispered in waiting drywall. The men within paced about and spoke at length on the discussion one would expect. A laundering here, a fiefdom there, latest quotas from the bosses. Everyone knew to make sure they didn't leave the wrong words hanging in the air for the wrong ears. Shibboleths sprouted in smoky mist. The Genovese branch of Mafia hadn't clung to their yellowed halls of power on the East Coast by playing stupid. They certainly weren't going to now. The struggle at the present wasn't one of them, but of its old friend's money. The New York joints had been bustled up for a while now, and for a time patrons had settled for what they can get. Depression using the chaos of the 50s had a way of killing any up-down pretensions. But now that America was recovering, the old middle class patrons were beginning to filter out, and even the Costa Nostra, deemed distasteful, were moving to take their place. The pimps were losing control of the situation on the home turf. Something had to be done. Anthony, Joe, and Mark, not their real names, fiddled with a map of South Avenue on the table. A new joint, free of the putrid smell of the old town, would jazz up the revenue and act as a movement point for money, guns, information. Old trade venues, easy money. But who would it frequent it? It wasn't exactly Broadway. Anthony smiled. His next words would change history, even if he didn't actually know it yet. We open up to the queers. I don't think you can say that anymore. I think but some of them call themselves, I don't know how that works. It's a slur, but they also call themselves it, and it's a thing. It's in the whatchamacallit. Fuck off with the shitty campaigns. Okay, here's what I'm thinking we might need to do, because I'm getting a little irritated. We're doing all this campaigning. Okay, and we'll see how that ends up going. So far, we're winning in Indonesia. I don't think we'll win by the end of the midterms. Yeah, get out of here, kid. Pushing, take that, take Kudus. Romania's siding with Germany. Also, we might fucking end this war right now. Honestly, if this guy's actually moving, if he runs a lackluster campaign, we'll see if our our rapid fire campaigning strategy everywhere will end up working for us. Come on, buddy. There we go. Feed the beast. Could do cogs in machine or pump the gas. Our military industry is performing insufficiently. The Japanese can draw upon their industrial strength of resources from the entire continent, and the full force of American industrial might be put to use against them. With our preparation for draft ensured by an uptick in military equipment production, we still need to beat the Japs in the air and on the seas, not to mention ensure our brave GIs have the support they need in tanks, artillery, and vehicles. Over the last few weeks, a number of politicians and generals have approached our administration with ideas of a vast aid package for the military-industrial complex with new government and funding in the construction of new arms plants in return for each controlled production. They probably are paid off with the promise of cushy board positions and their retirement from office. That doesn't mean they're wrong. Let's try to build support our proud American weapons companies by bringing prosperity into our lands by putting weapons in our hands. And that rhymes. How long did it take for them to come up with that little tagline? Come on, let's finish this up. And there we go. War is hell indeed. Oh, they've taken back the Christmas Islands. Very nice of them. The war is done. Ladies and gentlemen, we are finished up. We can rush militarization. That works for me. I'll go for a little longer than usual just because. I want to see how all these results go. Oh, let's campaign in New England while we're at it. Shit. Where are they campaigning? The Deep South. Yeah, I think things will be fine. We got another guy. We'll put him up. Chris Wallace. Bone. I just realized we should probably do something. This is something I kind of had figured out. We'll split these guys. We'll have massive presence on all these borders. There we go. We're having troops around the ports. Free military factories. We'll go. Some improved MB. Now we'll do some anti-air. Our position secured. NVP grows more popular. American society grows slightly more unified. The focus will change. Today, after months of hard fighting across the archipelago, the Indonesian Civil War has come to an end, so as forces surrender in droves, and Sukarno's top generals formally declare the fight over. Sukarno outed, the Popular Front of Free Indonesia is taking power, comprised of anti-Sukarno Republicans, oppressed ethnic groups, communists and Islamists. This ragtag army proved too far strong for the loyalist forces. Already democratic government is being set up in Jakarta, with much of the former rebels taking leadership positions. With the victory for Indonesia, the administration of Kennedy has seen a notable increase in popular support. Having promised to defeat Sukarno and the triumph of democracy, present promise appears to have become reality. Exactly what degree of the United States support affect the Indonesian Civil War remains in debate. For now, the Americans seem happy just to see a favorable conclusion to the war. Well, that probably helped us out the NPP more than it should. So let's see what ends up happening. Volunteers have come back. Terrible, good, excellent, mediocre. I don't know where those are happening. We'll see come election day. Polls are updated. Tilt. Leaning. likely lots of tilts. Begina Tunggal Ika. So are we going to have them in our faction now, or it's probably not? It doesn't look like it. Shell goes up in some support of his... They're doing pretty well. They said they would return. They did. And we'll wait for the elections to figure out themselves out. So far, so good, I gotta say. Our poverty rate is... Oh, we'll go back to speed 5. Pump the gas. Scout helicopters. We'll do... I was on the ports. If we ever eliminate this shameful sign, we got American sovereignty caused by the RDs, so-called tree ports. We need to decipher Japanese codes. Let's put some powerful computers to work on cracking their codes. It surely won't take too long. How could Japanese produce electronics be anyway? Ooh, you have no idea. Okay, so we'll get working on some of that, and then we'll work on fucking up our newfound popularity as hard as we can. Next on RD campaign, we'll see if that tilts things. We'll try the West Coast. I don't know where else. The Deep South. We'll have time to catch up. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Let's see the election results. Actually, hold up. We'll get some improved battleships before, and then... Why are the Democrats getting seats? I don't want them to gain seats. Fucking... I've been weakening them, too. Okay, The far right has lost a bunch of seats, though, so much for unity. Okay, let's take a look at the new setup now. The far right is dead, pretty much. They have 3 guys left. Arizona, I don't know what happened. This other guy will let him sit and find himself one day. But yeah, I've gone a bit over, so I should call it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more uploads every weekday. It's every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, and concerns, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments again. Appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to see me back some way, I have a Patreon. If you want to chat about games, I have a Discord. If you want to have more of this, see more of this good stuff live, Twitch, check it all out. So that's really about it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching as always. My name has been DB333. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.